Stay tuned for Indiana's best newscast, next on Channel 8. From Wish TV in Indianapolis, Mike Ahern, Debbie Knox, weather with Stan Wood, and sports with Fred Khalil. This is News 8.
Good evening. It is decision time tonight for the fourth fastest qualifier at the Indianapolis 500.
Late this afternoon, Jim Crawford hit the turn 3 wall violently. He escaped without injury and immediately began contemplating his options. Sports director Fred Khalil joins us with the crash and the post-hospital visit interview.
Well, Debbie, Jim Crawford has three options now. He can repair the car that he crashed, qualify his backup car 27th or below, or scratch the primary car after qualifications and start 33rd with the backup car. The accident happened right around 4 o'clock this afternoon, the same time Danny Sullivan crashed a week ago. Now watch that. Ooh! Right into that turn 3 wall. As we look at it in slow-mo, a problem with Crawford's rear suspension. You can see the back come apart. Derek Daly told us about it at 5:30. And watch one of the tires when it flies off and hits one of those iron poles and just takes the top of it right off. But the good news, you can see Jim talking there to the safety crews and out of the car. And Crawford is out of the hospital tonight. Dick Ray spent the late afternoon covering this story.
Unlike his qualifying crash in 1987, Jim Crawford was able to walk away from this encounter with the speedway wall. The only visible sign of injury, some scraped knuckles.
Methodist Hospital hasn't changed a bit.
While Crawford appears to be fit and ready to drive in this year's race, it's a different story for the car he qualified in the 4th position. Because of the extensive damage to the tub of car number 15, there's a real possibility Crawford will be forced to start at the back of the pack May 28th.
Well, they could fix the car, and that's all they'd have to do, fix it, and they'd remain in the same position. They could, after qualifications are over, they could substitute a team car for that car and go to the rear of the field. They could also withdraw the car and qualify the backup car on Saturday or Sunday.
If the 87 Lola cannot be repaired, Crawford has a backup car that already has gone over 221 miles an hour.
It looks like the Mac tools are flying in there. They're just pulling everything apart. As far as I see it, we're ready to go again, so no problem.
At the Speedway, Dick Ray, Wish TV, Sports 8.
Well, as Dick pointed out, that backup car has already been over 221, so we'll see something happening in the next couple days.
Okay, very good.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you, Fred. Other news now. A federal grand jury emerged late today with indictments against 2 Salem men in connection with the planning of 13 bombs around that southern Indiana town last summer. 31-year-old John Hubbard and 42-year-old Gerald Conrad have been indicted on 29 felony counts, including conspiring to manufacture destructive devices and the actual manufacture of those bombs. Hubbard and Conrad are being held without bail. Locally, detectives tonight charged an Indianapolis man with murder in an overnight shooting incident that left 1 man dead and his brother critically injured. Dead is 19-year-old Michael McElwain. Police say he was one of a dozen or more people at a party that turned violent. McElwain's brother Steve was shot in the head, at last report hospitalized in critical condition. Tonight, police charged 23-year-old Gerald Dwayne Cole with murder.
Well, tensions between police and city residents seem to be growing as of late. Recent police action shootings have made headlines, yet none like the incident involving IPD officer Matt Faber and an Indianapolis man. Last August, Faber was shot and killed by Fred Sanders after neighbors summoned police to Sanders' home. Well, as part of National Police Week, officers are now asking for a show of public support. Tonight, they asked the city to turn on the porch lights. News 8's Helen Somerset shows us what backing, if any, was out there.
A neighborhood on the city's west side. Dusk is falling, yet only one porch light glows. And it turned out that resident wasn't even home. So we went door to door. When I explained the police department's request to Ruth Sims, she apologized, said it was news to her, and turned on her light immediately.
We want to support the police department. We'd be in a mess if we didn't have them. There's enough drugs out there now. You know, they risk their life every day for us.
And that seemed to be the general consensus of most of the neighbors I talked with. No one seemed opposed to the idea. They simply didn't know about the Turn on the Light campaign.
Officer Rick Danner said the lack of lights didn't surprise him in the least.
It wasn't publicized. extensively as far as I'm aware. I saw an article in the paper, but that's all I saw.
Danner admits support for police has been on the skids lately. He says he's had runs recently where the disturbing party will run into a home and then dare him to come inside. Moves he says are inspired by the Fred Sanders shooting incident.
I think it'll stay in people's minds, and it's something that you can learn from. And that's why it's probably better off to stay in your mind, because you learn from mistakes and just go on.
Later on a drive through that very same West Side neighborhood, we saw a few more porch lamps aglow.
All these lights usually aren't on.
Danner said realistically those lights probably weren't on just to show support for the police. But even so, the brightness against the night sky was a welcome sight. On the west side of Indianapolis, Helen Somerset, Wish TV, News 8.
And Police Week activities continue tomorrow. At 1:30 in the afternoon, a memorial service for fallen officers will be held at St. John's Catholic Church in downtown Indianapolis.
Still coming tonight on News 8, we will see a professional football player tackle the toughest problem of his life.
And we'll show you some home movies, these taken by astronaut Mark Lee from the cockpit of the Shuttle Atlantis.
And here we have ignition right here. And you can see all the shaking that goes on. I'm trying to hold this thing as steady as I can.
Aim and Flame. It's the disposable torch by Scripto. During May, it's just $2.36 where you see the banner at participating True Value hardware stores and home centers.
See your Central Indiana Ford dealer now.
See you're hauling redwood logs.
Yeah, you?
Dynamite. Hey, neighbor, what you hauling?
Petunias, geraniums, gardenias. It's for Flower Week at Kmart. Plants, shrubs.
Hey, this is Mandevilla.
And a variegated lirio. Almost everything that grows is on sale now during Flower Week at Kmart.
You wouldn't have an azalea in there, would you?
May I say you have excellent taste.
Yeah.
Dynamite.
The people of Frankton, Indiana seem to be jinxed. They have lost another doctor who allegedly broke the law. First it was Pravin Thakur, a physician who lost his medical license after some of his patients came forward alleging he made sexual advances toward them. A criminal investigation is also underway in that case. Now, the physician who was brought in to replace Dr. Thakur, Norman Wong, learned today the Medical License Board suspended his license for writing excessive prescriptions for controlled substances. News 8 tried to reach Dr. Wong for comment. His phone was disconnected.
The Sino-Soviet summit is over. The news of it coming not from the meetings of two world leaders, but from the Chinese student rebellion that overshadowed the summit. In an unexpected move at dawn Friday, that's China time, Prime Minister Li Peng and the Communist Party leader of China met with leaders of the student movement in an attempt to talk their way out of further humiliation. But those in the forefront of the student rebellion said no, unless their demands for Western-style democracy and freedoms are met, the protests will continue. In the streets, literally millions of demonstrators listened to the confrontation on the radio. They heard Li Peng tell the student leaders that Beijing is paralyzed, coming to anarchy, out of control. They also heard him reject